What is going on, Culture Changers? Welcome back to the Culture Changers podcast. Now, today we definitely have some interesting topics to talk about. We're going to be discussing the tankathon that is going to be potentially going on in the NFL now that we are past the halfway point in the season. The rookie quarterback play thus far, there's been 3 really good ones. We are going to be locking in our game picks for this upcoming week. And then we're just going to be discussing some news and notes of some notable things that is going on around the sports world. So getting into the first topic, the tankathon, we have the Jets, who are 0-9 after that loss last night to the Patriots. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 1-7. The New York Football Giants at 2-7. And the Washington Football Team, who is now 2-6. So I do believe that pretty much for the rest of the season, it is going to stay in this order. I somehow, some way think that the Jets are going to at least get a win this year. You know, I really don't wish 0-16 on any team after living that out. That sucked so bad. But yeah, I mean, I think that, it would be interesting to see if the Jets and Giants do potentially move on with either Darnold or Daniel Jones, just because they've only had them for a short period of time. But I could definitely see them trying to move those guys, get some draft capital, and maybe set it up for the next quarterback and see what they can do, just because I don't think those teams have done a great job of putting pieces around those 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, a lot of these teams either have young quarterbacks or quarterbacks that just like the Jaguars have Gardner Minshew, and
I mean, he is a young quarterback.
Yeah,
this is only like his second season.
Yeah, so I mean, like a lot of these guys. I mean, Darnold is probably the oldest quarterback out of like those 4 teams. He's 3 years in, I think.
Yeah.
So but we saw like Arizona move on from Josh Rosen after a single year, and then they drafted Kyler number 1 overall. So I don't think anything's really stopping these teams. I mean, when you're just mediocre, like you got to just keep taking shots at the quarterback position.
Right.
And there are a couple of different prospects out there. There's Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and then there's this kid from BYU who's been just lighting it up this year, Zach Wilson. So, I mean, there's 4 teams there, and I just listed 4 quarterbacks. So, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, something that, is also something to note. There are some other teams that have, 2 wins, 3 wins out there, but they do have like established quarterbacks, like how the Cowboys have Dak, or, some teams like the Bengals, Chargers have rookie quarterbacks. So they're obviously not going to move on. And, we're going to be talking about that here in a second. But, with the Jacksonville Jaguars, Minshew has played pretty well. He's missed the last game. But, and they are 1-6 with him in the lineup. But they really don't have that many pieces there. That defense is pretty much obliterated. And, their wide receivers are actually, Shenault and Chark have actually played pretty well. But their running game, I mean, they've gotten some good production, but I don't think people are scared of their running game. I think people are going to let them, run on them until they get into the red zone, and then they're going to kind of stiffen that up. And then Washington, they've pretty much moved on from Dwayne Haskins, right? He was, I think the 17th overall pick when he was drafted a couple years ago, and now he's pretty much the 3rd string on the roster. I guess he's now the 2nd string since Kyle Allen got hurt, but it's pretty much up to Alex Smith now, I guess. So I think that at the end of the day, for the rest of the season, I think that the order that we kind of listed the teams in, the Jets, Jags, Giants, and the football team, I think it's going to kind of stay in that order for the rest of the year heading into the draft. I think the Jets are going to try and get the number 1 overall pick. But it would be funny, though, to see none of those guys come out in the draft because they don't want to get drafted by the Jets. But I would see that, maybe the BYU kid or
Justin Fields.
No, not Trey even Lance. Yeah, Trey Lance. I could see them coming out just because they would have the opportunity to go number 1 and to make all that money. Where I think Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, they could come out after next year and still be top 2 picks, pretty much. So now moving on to the rookie quarterback play. It's been pretty good so far from Burrow, Tua, and Herbert. What do you think, Dill?
Yeah, I think that Burrow's been doing it all year. Herbert had to come in, obviously, because of Tyrod Taylor's weird lung thing. And then Tua, they just decided that they wanted to see what they had after the bye. I mean, all these guys so far, I mean, it's been different sample sizes against different levels of competition, but they've all looked pretty good so far. They've all played pretty well. I mean, they've all lived up to the hype. I think Herbert's probably the biggest surprise. I don't think a lot of people were that confident in him coming into the league, but
Right.
I mean, he can put up numbers. I mean, we've talked about it several weeks in a row that we think he's going to break Baker's rookie touchdown record. So
Yeah, for sure.
you know, I mean, he's got a lot of talent around him. He's got a good defense. It's just like they got a lot of these guys right now. They're doing really well. They just got to learn how to close out a game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and at the end of the day, it's not all on them. Their defense has to step up. Their playmakers have to step up. But these guys are definitely playmakers. They're making plays. They're keeping their teams in games.
Right.
I think that you could see that Burrow is really good at quick decision making. I think Herbert is definitely capable of making the big play, and I think Tua is really good at taking care of the ball and kind of just taking what's there. So I think they all have their strengths, and they all definitely probably have their weaknesses that some teams will start to expose going into next year and moving forward. But it's just a matter of kind of how can they continue to develop beyond that.
Right.
Personally, I love seeing young quarterback success because that just means that the future, is bright within the NFL and that there's going to be a lot of competitive play every single week. That's why, us as Browns fans and other Browns fans are so keen on Baker playing well and getting better because we want to see that good quarterback play that we know we can pretty much go into any game and our quarterback can lead us to a victory on a last-second drive or whatever it may be.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of these guys, it's like they're playing really well, and it's just they have to learn how to close games. Specifically, Burrow and Herbert. I mean, they've won the last 2 games, and that was against the Rams and the Cardinals, right?
Yeah, so pretty good opponents.
Yeah, so, I mean, Herbert and Burrow, they need to learn how to close the games. I mean, we're kind of seeing Baker learn how to, start to close games this year, I thought that game against the Bengals a couple weeks ago was one of his best games, especially closing it out when the team needed him most. That was one of the one of the moments I really remember that Baker, he kept us in the whole game and he won us the game. So
especially after that rough start.
Yeah.
And he was missing, his right guard, his wide receiver 1, running back 1, and tight end 1.
Yeah. And the defense was not helping. They haven't been helping at all, really. Most of the year, they've been giving up a lot of points. So I think there's a lot of, promise with these guys. I think there's a lot to learn, and but I think they're off to a really good start.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting seeing how it plays out. Obviously last week for our offensive rookie of the year, we did pick Joe Burrow, and he's pretty much started the entire season. So I mean, you pretty much kind of got to give that to him over the other couple guys. But it'll be interesting seeing how it comes down at the end, who actually ends up winning. It could be based on who wins more games or who has more touchdowns or whatever. I don't know what their criteria is for picking.
The Dolphins might even sneak into the playoffs.
So I mean, that could definitely give it to Tua, but you have to think that Ryan Fitzpatrick also did kind of help put them in a little bit of the position, winning 3 of their 5 games already. So now we are going to be getting on to our game picks. Dylan, why don't you go ahead and rattle them off?
Yeah, so the teams that we have winning this week are the Titans, Eagles, Packers, Lions, Browns, Bucks, Dolphins, Raiders, Cardinals. Well, you have the Cardinals, I have the Cardinals, and you have the Bills. The Saints, the Rams, the Steelers, Ravens, and Vikings.
So, I mean, I think that most of the games this week will be interesting. It's going to be interesting seeing how the Bucks bounce back.
Yeah.
Can the Titans bounce back from that ugly loss to the Cincinnati Bengals?
Obviously, didn't they play? Didn't they just play someone and beat them?
Who? The Titans?
Yeah.
No, they just lost to the Bengals. I'm pretty sure.
No, I thought that was 2 weeks ago.
Oh no, they did beat Chicago, I think.
Chicago.
Yeah. So they did bounce back, but it is interesting to see how they did lose the game right after both of the boys were down and out.
Yeah.
I do think Will Compton ended up signing back onto the practice squad, but man, come on, man. Busting with the boys.
The boys. Make sure you check out the pod too.
So, obviously the Packers, they had a pretty big win this past week.
Yeah.
They lit it up against the 49ers. And then our game, the Cleveland Browns versus the Houston Texans. We have Nick Chubb coming back, Wyatt Teller coming back, Austin Hooper coming back.
Miles feeling healthy again.
Yeah, Miles is feeling healthy. So it'll be interesting to see if we can kind of generate that pass rush
against
and get
Houston.
This game going. It's a home game, and we're coming off of the bye week. So hopefully, this is really kind of like the flip of the switch that we need and
it.
kind of just get on a win streak and then maybe start, beating some of our tougher opponents in the Titans, Steelers, and Ravens coming up towards the end of the season.
Right. So, and one thing I want to point out was last week's game between the Steelers and the Cowboys. I don't know what was going on with the Steelers, but and I'm not just saying this as a Browns fan, but I think at some point they're going to start to get kind of tired because they've just been playing, all these weeks in a row. They're
pretty much going to have to play like 14 or so weeks in a row, like 13, 14 weeks in a row.
So, I mean, I think the Niners had like a similar, like they had like a really early bye week last year and they made it to the Super Bowl. But I mean, just looking at that game last week, they looked kind of tired. They looked kind of sluggish. And I mean, it's the Cowboys who haven't been playing really good at all this year, and they're on like their 4th or 5th string quarterback. So, I guess we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, personally, I just think that it's going to catch up to them at some point. Like, I think that they're bound to lose a game here sooner or later.
Right. And another thing too is I think that the Ravens are obviously uber talented. They made the playoffs last year. They have a pretty decent record this year. But you can kind of see teams are kind of starting to figure out a little bit how to slow them down at least a little bit to, keep themselves in games. But I still think it is very based on, personnel packages and, just how you kind of go about attacking that run game and if you can minimize what they do in the passing game.
Right.
I think teams have put blueprints out there on how to beat them. I just think it is all about, do you have the personnel to be able to do what you need to stop them?
And like we're seeing some teams being able to do it like the Colts did for like the first half, but then it's like the second half they're able to just kind of run away with the game. So.
Right. I mean, it's just so hard, to constantly, be so disciplined in your run game and your run fits and all of that. So now we are just going to be moving on to the end of the show. We are going to be talking about news and notes from around the sports world. Trayvon Diggs, the Cowboys rookie cornerback, is going to be missing 4 to 6 weeks. Not sure why. I just know that he is going to be missing that time. The NBA is targeting a 2021 season start date in late December. The Falcons officially waived Takk McKinley after he called them clowns on Twitter. So they didn't even trade him for anything, even though apparently they had offers to trade him. They just pretty much were like, yeah, we're not going to get any compensation for our former first-round pick. And then the NFL, in my opinion, still needs to work on COVID protocols. You see guys pretty much all the time now, teams having to put guys on the COVID reserve list just as a safety precautionary. They need to figure out ways in which these guys can stay safe and stay away from the virus.
I mean, and one of the things that like really seems to be coming up is that a lot of these players are getting it from like staff members of the team. So it's like, it's not just the players that need to be held accountable. It is the staff members who, are high risk or whatever. Like, I don't know, what's going on with that.
I don't even think it's high risk. I just think it's that, it's some ball boy is going out to the grocery store to get something in this, or some equipment managers going out to his local gym and he's maybe picking up the virus. Who knows?
Yeah,
but
I guess,
the league just needs to do a better job of, kind of keeping these guys in check. And I think it's more the team needs to hold their staff accountable because, like Dylan said, that's a lot of where it is coming from. We are seeing some players, but, it's got to come from somewhere. They're not having it on game day, but they're getting it later in the week. So, what really is it? Anyways, we appreciate you guys for taking the time to watch this video. Make sure you like and comment down below. Did we pick your team to win? And if so, if we didn't, tell us why they are going to win. And if we did pick them to win, tell us why you think they are going to win. We appreciate you guys for watching this video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.